Time for the Weird and Wacky segment.
Abominable Snowman.
He's not an axe murderer.
One of the TAs turned out to be a bot.
So I just bought the only physical encyclopedia still in print, and I regret nothing. Well, I didn't, but that's the headline. So that was kind of an interesting one. So this was kind of cool. It's the World Book Encyclopedia is the only one still being printed.
Yeah.
So.
Did you know that there was still an encyclopedia in print?
I figured there was. The interesting thing I saw in there is that Britannica ended in 2012 after 244 years in print. Like, wow. But I feel like there'll be enough demand for one out there, probably for a long time. There'll be enough people buying it, kind of like the film cameras and other things that people want to have some nostalgia. Like, down to one company, that feels about right. You know, they probably won't change it too much, but yeah.
I will say, like, I was intrigued by it because, like, the one thing that, you know, that's harder, I think, to me to do on a screen is kind of that, like, I'm just going to open up the encyclopedia for H. And then you just kind of thumb through it, you know, and like you just sort
do
of
that a lot.
Yes, I absolutely. Okay. Yeah. But like you just sort of stumble upon things. Like there used to be that website Stumble Upon, right?
Yeah,
like, and I feel like we need more of that, like serendipitous stumbling into new things. But one of the hard things about the internet and about screens in particular is that like there's not really a great way to do that. Like you kind of either you have to know what you're looking for. Or like there's not like a random like, well, let me just see where I land, you know, sort of thing anymore. And
I think there is for Wikipedia. I thought there was something like that for Wikipedia. You can randomize and it'll take you to an article. But
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I'm not sure I'd ever really have time just to sit around and say, I have nothing else to do, so I'm going to...
Yeah, fair enough.
But cool idea, though.
Yeah. Well, speaking of cool ideas, Japan has a wild idea to launch a satellite made of wood in 2024. Apparently, they've been testing wood as a material for space for a while. They landed on, of all things, magnolia wood, which I thought was very interesting. But there's a lot of like good reasons to do this. Apparently, like because wood is it's very eco-friendly. You know, it's a somewhat renewable resource. And when it eventually does, what do they call it? Deorbit, which I still think is the weirdest word in the world. When they do deorbit it, I mean, it burns up in the atmosphere. It's not like we're not contributing to any pollution here. So, I mean, it's a pretty fascinating, sort of wild idea. I mean, what are your thoughts?
My first thought was it sounded insane. Like, cause I think of it in terms of like companies spending years building this one satellite. Like, you want to do that, but then you think of like Starlink that's sending up thousands of them. Like, okay, if you're doing it at scale, suddenly that makes more sense. And they sent one to the ISS a while ago, and they kind of floated outside the ISS for like 10 months, and it held up remarkably well. And like, okay, I mean, for the reasons you gave, like, it's worth a shot, I guess. You know, seems kind of weird, but
I do some woodworking. I would love to see something I make end up in space. Yeah, like I feel like that would be like maybe they could have like a contest for some amateur woodworkers and be like, all right, who wants to send their stuff into space? And that'd be great. Speaking of woodworking, hold that thought because that is going to come back into play during my tech break, just so you know.
Oh, sweet.
But moving to the next one here.
Yeah, so hundreds attend church service generated by ChatGPT. So
would you have gone?
They said it was packed. It was overflowing with people just wanting to check it out. And I think it brings the interesting conversation of, you know, Jonas Simmerlein, the guy that did this. He conceived the service, and he said about 98% of it came from the machine. He did tweak it himself. And so the tweaking is what, like, where does that line draw? Because I bet most sermons today, or at least a good chunk of them, have a bit of ChatGPT in them where they've helped research some topic. Like, so is 5% okay? Is 20% okay? 98% seems a little extreme, perhaps. But there's a line there somewhere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, I think it's a fascinating concept. I do wonder like what it would have been like to like sit in that audience. Like how meaningful is that? Like how meaningful is like, for example, like a graduation speech when it's coming from an AI, like an inspiring speech, like that, like
correct. That's
does
the
it
issue,
hold the same impact? Like maybe I'm not so sure that it does. You know,
and I think they said like when they got to the Lord's Prayer during the sermon, a lot of people wouldn't say it along with the AI because it just felt inappropriate. And like, you know.
Interesting. I also like that they mentioned that it was very monotone, and that there was a very stoic video AI figure that was projected onto the screen along with it, which I thought was hilarious. So I mean, it's fascinating. I don't think I would have gone, but I would watch like 5 minutes of it just out of sheer morbid curiosity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up, owner of, quote, Area 51 Nevada license plate flooded with tickets thanks to novelty tags. So apparently there's like a real Nevada license plate that is Area 51, like a custom license plate, Area 51. But people sell fake Area 51 license plates around Area 51 for tourists, and then those tourists put them on their cars, and then like when they go through like tolls that they don't pay for, the auto snap camera whatever catches the fake plate, and they trace it back to this guy, and they send. He gets hundreds and hundreds of tickets apparently. Like I think it was like
172 tickets or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like it has to spend all of this time responding to them, and like I think was it Las Vegas threatened a warrant for his arrest at one point, and like I'm thinking. It's not worth it, man. Like it's just not like, why would you spend your time doing this? It's not worth it. It's just
he probably didn't realize that was the consequence. Because I know people that had custom plates. Like one of my friend Charlie had an Explorer, and he got a custom plate that was Dora. So it was Dora the Explorer. Like, okay, that's kind of cool. But like, if you do Area 51, like you wouldn't think this kind of thing would come up. The thing it reminded me of, I heard of a guy years ago that had a license plate, and the custom one was null, N-U-L-L, which in a database means empty. And similar issues when they didn't have a plate, it would put in null and it would all go to this dude. He got tons of stuff there
that
too.
was linked in the bottom of this article. Apparently,
cool.
The null license plate guy got $12,000 worth of bills because of that mistake. Which I mean, null is a funny license plate. Like you gotta think like that's funny, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's the angle. I remember reading about one that was like 1ILL1LI1 or something like that, where like you can't read it, like you know.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Hard to tell what's even what. So I think he was trying to evade tickets with that. Like, good luck writing this down.
That's actually pretty smart. Like, if a cop goes by and you're like, I don't even want to try that license plate. I'm just going to let him go. I'm just going to let him go. Yeah, that's good.
So a bit more AI here. The Beatles will release a final record using John Lennon's voice via an AI assistant. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so apparently like this, there was this recording, and they were never going to release it because the recording was just too bad. It wasn't good enough quality to be able to release as a final song, final album. And apparently with AI assistants, they've been able to sort of draw out the voice and isolate it and make sure it has the right tone. And now they're going to release it. I mean, I think it's kind of neat depending on how much AI it is and how it really sounds, right? Like, is it really true to John Lennon's voice or not? And are they adding in audio AI, or are they just removing the bad audio? Like that's really the question to me, is like, because like when you and I, you know, when I go to edit this podcast later, like I'm going to use like really advanced tools to pull out like some noise and things like that and give us good tone and all that other stuff. So like I'm fine with that from an AI perspective. I don't want it to fake something, if that makes sense. I mean, what are your thoughts?
And that's where it's that whole scale of when is faking appropriate. Like, you know, you could have
percentage, right?
Yeah, like you could have recorded this podcast using your voice, typed it up and recorded it. Seth Godin did that a few episodes ago, where his whole episode was he typed it up and had it read in his voice, and I didn't even catch it until the end when he admitted what happened. Like, it was that good. It was fantastic.
Really?
It was amazing.
I'm gonna need you to give me that link, man. That sounds fantastic. I need to check that out.
Well, he kind of teased it because the whole episode was him asking questions to AI and then him reading the response from the AI. So it's about it, but then at the end he said, "Oh, by the way, I didn't read any of that. Like, it was all generated like crazy."
Oh my gosh!
But then you go a step further. Like, you could say, "Okay, I wish Sanjay was here today, so I'm going to take whatever Mickey said and turn it into Sanjay's voice." Like, that gets a little weird.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Beatles. You know, could they use John Lennon's voice for other stuff, and then could Taylor Swift use John Lennon's voice and do like it can get to such weird places where it becomes wildly inappropriate, and finding that line of appropriateness is tough to see. I feel like they're okay on this one.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not with his consent, clearly. So
right.
I think it's okay still.
Well, I mean, it's like that with some actors, right? Like, because like wasn't it Star Wars? A couple of like one of the newer movies, they had a full AI actor because the actor that originally played him back has died, and so they had like this. And it was pretty brief, but I mean, still like it's a full AI actor, and it's like how I don't know, like is that okay? That's good, maybe. I mean, AI art, same problem, right?
Well, same thing. I'm thinking like Steve Jobs' new book that came out recently. You know, it's a SteveJobsArchive.com. I think we'll put it in the show notes maybe, but it's a whole book of his words that just came out. But it was things he said, but he had never put into book form, and so I think it's okay. But it's a similar kind of thing where releasing a new book for him is interesting.
Well, I mean, but that's not unlike, like, for example, like I've been big into Stoicism and like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, right? I mean, the same, like Meditations is just Marcus Aurelius's personal diary that he kept, and then somebody gathered them all together and was like, man, this is amazing stuff. Let's publish this and make some money. That's probably not exactly what they said, but like, that's what they did, and it's still read widely today. And I think he would have, if Marcus Aurelius was alive, which obviously he's clearly not, he would be pretty shocked that we're still talking about him and reading this stuff today, So
I would think so.
I mean, so maybe same with Steve Jobs in his book too. So it's a weird